Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And in the last few weeks, we've gotten a lot of back-to-back updates from all the carriers. There have been several conferences. They've all been virtual, but they've kind of been back-to-back-to-back, almost to the point where it's like repeating the same stuff over and over again. You go from one conference to the next and there's really no update. It's all the same numbers, all the same predictions, and the same guidance. So recently, Neville Ray spoke at, I think it was the Bernstein conference. Then they had the capital market update at Deutsche Telekom. Then the other day he was at the UBS event conference. And earlier today, he presented at Wells Fargo. All of them, again, the same info, same guidance, has not changed from what they presented at the Analyst Day. But the reason I still tune in is because the person asking the questions could be asking different questions versus the last analyst that asked his questions. So the analyst today from Wells Fargo, I think he asked very, very good, legitimate questions. Some of those questions I would have asked. I still think analysts are not pressuring him enough on the fragmentation of the 2.5 spectrum and some of the interference issues that we're hearing inside of airports and other places where we potentially won't see 2.5 inside the airport. But that's something that I think they need to pressure him on more in terms of him answering those questions. But today's conference was interesting because there was a discussion about small cells. And that's something for a very long time that we were hoping to get more of a outlook on what does small cells look like in T-Mobile's network on the merger integration model. How does Neville view small cells? And we know small cells are big for Verizon and AT&T. But at the UBS event and then today at Wells Fargo, from what Neville Ray commented and the answers that he gave, it seems like he's going the complete opposite direction versus his competitors. He says small cells will not play a vital role in his network. It's going to be macro-based. He made that very clear today. And as you see by the title, T-Mobile US may decommission small cells. So that's a bit of a, that title requires a lot of context because he's not talking about the small cells that T-Mobile built. He's talking about the Sprint small cells that they got from the merger, which would equal to him having about 70,000 small cells, which he says is more than he needs on air. So there is a possibility, he stated today, that he may decommission all of the Sprint small cells. While the merger was ongoing in some of the videos, I was anticipating and predicting that a lot of the Sprint small cells would overlap T-Mobile's coverage to begin with. If T-Mobile didn't have a nearby macro to the Sprint small cells, then T-Mobile had a small cell close to the Sprint small cell. That's what I was guesstimating during the merger trial. Now, decommissioning all Sprint small cells, I think that's harsh. I think some of those small cells could most definitely be used and upgraded, for real estate purposes. Some of those have Band 41 on air. I think they could very well complement the macro grid of Neville's. But again, like I just stated, it seems like he's going the complete opposite direction. So if he does decommission all the Sprint small cells, it would leave him roughly with 27,000 small cells in T-Mobile's network today. So T-Mobile's network, these entire years during LTE, it has been mainly macro-based. The small cells that they did deploy were in very specific strategic areas where they either had high market share or the network was just completely overloaded versus the spectrum that they had in that area. So in the network today actively, he deployed 27,000 small cells. And a lot of those small cells, I can guarantee you, are strand mounts. Strand mounts, they do have unlicensed LAA spectrum. LAA does not reach very far. It's worse than millimeter wave in my experience. So the end goal for him in the analyst's day and the guidance that was given, the end goal for him, he wants to have 50,000 small cells on air. So that means he would have to build another 23,000 small cells within that whatever time frame they have set to get those small cells rolled out. Does he continue using strand mounts? Does he shift to CRAN, centralized RAN? Remains to be seen. But hopefully he can get some of the CRAN out there so he can put some millimeter wave up. I'm not very confident in that plan, just due to the fact that Verizon is going to push out 30,000 millimeter wave nodes by the end of this year. That means they're doing 14,000 nodes this year. And that doesn't even include all the LTE small cells that they have on air and that they have deployed over the last few years. And earlier this morning, Verizon CTO also presented at the Wells Fargo conference. And he stated that 14,000 nodes per year pace, they want to maintain that for a couple of more years. So they're not slowing down on small cells at all. And AT&T is right now really heavily rolling out the CRAN structure, centralized RAN, and they're going to take that up another notch as well. So like I said, Neville and T-Mobile's network, they're going the complete opposite direction versus their competitors. Yes, they have more spectrum. Yes, they have Sprint keep sites, but I predict, and I was speaking to my buddy about this, that is in the known. He tells me beyond, if they don't want to go heavy on small cells, beyond the Sprint keep sites, Neville would have to continue to densify the network on the macro basis to keep up the pace, deployment, and speed that Verizon and AT&T are going to be able to push with their deployment. Some of these neighborhoods, you just can't build a macro in the neighborhoods. So small cells are a better option in those neighborhoods. And if Neville doesn't get on board with the small cells in a big way, then he may not be as competitive in those neighborhoods and not have a good of network versus if Verizon puts up 5 nodes that have CBRS and millimeter wave on them, which I've seen Verizon deploy here in some of the neighborhoods. And AT&T, they will follow suit with their CRAN. Their CRAN are going to reach much further. They have power levels of a macro. I mean, it's a winning pedigree, and T-Mobile does not seem to want to adapt to that. And I think they will pay dearly for it in the future as their network gains more traffic and as more people shift over the 5G. So let me know what you think about this. Do you guys think small cells are a vital part of the network? Do you think Neville's right when he says small cells are not needed? Let me know that in the comment section down below. If you have been on the channel or you're new to the channel and you have not yet liked, shared, subscribed, make sure you do so. Hit the notification bell so you are notified when I do upload content. Make sure to follow all of my social media outlets for more updates and interactions. Thanks again for watching. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.